I just finished reading Hello Beautiful by Ann Napolitano. This was a TikTok recommendation, and sometimes I don't always trust the book recommendations I get from TikTok. But in this case, I do feel like the praise that this book has been getting is extremely warranted. A couple things. I loved that this was not a retelling, but certainly an homage to Little Women, which is one of my favorite classic American novels. So it follows four sisters from the Padavano family. Julia's the oldest, then Sylvia, and then the twins, Cecilia and Emmeline. They live in a Chicago neighborhood called Pilsen, and they're an Italian American family that is super close knit. But as the book progresses, you realize that there is a lot of generational issues that really have not been, I guess, dealt with or brought to light until a tragedy and a scandal simultaneously rock the family. And the book also follows William, who is sort of like the Laurie character. Like, he's the one guy that really seems to be brought in by the Padavano sisters, but she didn't just rewrite Louisa May Alcott's characters carte blanche. Like, she took what you love about them from Little Women and changed them and made them unique to the context that they're in now, which in this case would be Chicago in the late 70s, early 80s. And the book deals with grief mostly, and how each one of the characters uniquely is addressing or not addressing the grief that they have uniquely experienced. The novel itself spans about 30 years, which I really liked that she took us through really the full adulthood of each of these characters that we were introduced to in their teen years, and shows who they have become as a result of this traumatic experience that the family has had to weather together. And I found it, like, as someone who has recently gone through the loss of someone very close to me, I felt like this was an extremely accurate representation of grief and how it can turn the closest relationships inside out. She plays with the relationships of the four sisters and how what worked for them in their childhood and in their youth in staying together was no longer going to serve them as adults, and they had to really learn new ways to be in a relationship with one another. Overall, though, I don't think I've read a book that has made me cry as hard as this one did, and I don't know if that was just because, again, I've recently walked through this grief journey, so a lot of that, like, those feelings were still very, like, raw and being validated as I was reading this book. But this was such a beautifully written story.